What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one will break down what's going on with NIO stock, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about what the news is saying about NIO and what's going on with the overall market when it comes to like SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, and the QQQ. And also break down some very, very important factors about these different stocks. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I talk about what's going on with the overall market and for NIO, let me just mention a couple of things before starting. I am firstly not a financial planner, so make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends in just 7 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, so NIO is up about 0.53% for the day. NIO got a very nice gap to the upside as the market gapped up as well. And then we saw this major sell-off in the markets that led NIO to coming down as well. But NIO managed to barely close green, which is another sign of strength, another sign of resilience as NIO is continuing to hold up. However, I do see something very similar happening tomorrow. I'm going to break down exactly why that is. So to start us off, looking at SPY, let me just mention that for SPY for tomorrow, we have a 2.25 put to call ratio with a $449 max pain, and we're actually still above max pain to some degree at 449. Now, looking forward, we have about almost 1.2, it's actually close to like 1.15 million puts expiring going into tomorrow. But then for the call side, it's about like just under 500,000. So we have the majority of positions being puts, and there's a good chance market makers may try to close this very close to max pain. And on top of that, so we do have some earnings coming out very soon. We have like Ford, Intel, and Roku so far, but don't forget that it's going to affect the market for tomorrow. We just have to be very patient. Excuse me. Moving forward, we also have the PCE report coming out, and this data is going to have a big effect on the market. So make sure you're ready for this because the Fed is very likely going to be looking at this data. The PCE data is going to be for the month of June. This is another important inflationary measure. When this comes out 1 hour before the market opens, it may actually help the market pump a little bit. This is going to be some positive news, most likely, as CPI was pretty decent for the month of June. And then that could help the markets. And then going into like 30 minutes after the market opens, we have the Michigan Consumer Report coming out. So far, things have been quite good as we're seeing lots of positive sentiment amongst consumers. And we're going to see the inflationary expectations data as well. So based off what the Fed said, this could change. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. And besides that, when it comes to NIO just announced on July 27th, NIO Germany launched its newest NIO swap station, which is in a part of Germany, which is once again awesome news for them. They have 20 power swap stations and 8 charger stations in Europe in total. And that's some very, very good news as they're expanding more and more. Now, to add on to this, there's more talk about how the Chinese government is continuing to put more and more upward momentum into many stocks by once again optimizing the business environments, putting more support for green energy, and this is helping these tickers, especially NIO. Now, on top of this, NIO is approaching deliveries going into just the next couple of days. I think it's going to be bullish news, most likely based off the registrations we're seeing. And as NIO is continuing to pump, there's a good chance we're going to get some very, very positive price action as we approach that date. But before that happens, we might see a little downside with the market first before we start to see some much better price action. We had 103 million in volume, well above average, and NIO is still in a good place. But I just want to remind you all that NIO did gap up and slow down as the day went on. And there's a very good chance we're going to see SPY do something very similar. So for tomorrow in particular, I think we're going to see a similar move where SPY actually gaps up in the morning thanks to PCE. We may retest like 454 or so, maybe a little higher. And then the market may continue to slow down. I think we could see something very similar, a gap up than a drop, because we have max pain at 449. And once again, there's a lot of bearish momentum that's going to go into tomorrow. It's not like the market just sells off like this hard, then it just bounces like crazy in one day. That's a little less likely. It's more likely we could gap up and then see more selling momentum. And I think that's what the odds favor. For Tesla, there's a good chance we're going to open very close to like 260 or so, maybe try to push to the upside. And then we may see another sell-off and a retest of 255, if not 250. And if that fails us, it's going to be back into the 240s. And we also have that gap all the way down around this like 240 area. So if Tesla continues to sell off like this could be, some negative news for it. Now, I also want to add that, this whole structure starts to look like a head and shoulders forming on Tesla. We have like a left shoulder ahead. Could we be forming like a right shoulder for more downside? That's a possibility for the future, but it really depends on what happens with tech and other factors like that. I just want to mention and call out to this level right about here. There's also this gap down here around like the 230s. I don't know if Tesla's going to fill that gap, but I'm going to be looking for a gap up tomorrow. We're going to talk about this first, this 260 area gap around there, then downside again, just like today, for a retest of like 255, and potentially a break lower. And then for NVIDIA stock, the stock is still very resilient, but it started to sell off more because of the market. Got a very, very nice bounce in the morning, trying to push those higher levels, then ended up just failing and coming down to fill this gap. And now with NVIDIA, we could be once again continuing to see downside if it does break down. Going to be looking for a gap up tomorrow into like 460s before it continues to drop. I'm going to be watching this retest of about this 457 area. If that fails us, we could see a move all the way down to like 450 or so, if not 446. So we're going to be watching it very carefully. On the triple Q, we're going to be watching for a gap up to about 378 or so, then a rejection. And if that fails us, we're going to be watching it come all the way down to 375, if not 374. And then we also have that unfilled gap around like 373. So that could get filled afterwards after getting this big like drop. I think it's very important to note. Last but not least, when it comes to NIO, I think NIO is going to be following the market this time around. A nice gap up again to like 3.5 to 3.7 would be very possible. Then it continues to sell off a little bit thanks to the markets. And I think there's a chance NIO may be very flat, get very close to like 13 or so, test the 13 level, maybe hit the high 12s, then bounce and close a little bit in the red. But that's going to be the last time I see something like this happening, because I'm anticipating that as we get into next week, we're going to see some better price action, because we're going to be getting very close to August 1st, and NIO is going to be announcing their deliveries report very soon, which is going to help the share price soar, in my opinion. But to start off, we may get a nice dip for tomorrow, a very small one. That could be a good buying opportunity, and there's a good chance we're going to see some upside approaching the deliveries going into next week, if not after deliveries. Now, is it a guarantee? I'm not promising it. I'm just saying the odds favor that, because registrations are looking good and NIO has a lot of positive momentum going forward. All right, so that's what I'm seeing for NIO. A nice gap up for tomorrow, then some potential downside. I think the market's going to dictate it. And despite the fact that the market may try to gap up thanks to some bullish news that came out, that could come out for PCE, we still could see downside afterwards because of this bearish momentum that is perpetuating, and SPY has max pain at 449, and the market makers may try to bring the market down for that reason. All right, so watch the levels carefully, make sure you're calm, cool, and collected, do what you have to do, and I just want the best for all of you. Thank you for listening. NIO to the moon, as the long term is still incredibly bright, no matter what anyone tries to say. Oh, and I forgot to add one more thing. One last thing before I say anything. For the people asking me about Meta, I just wanted to bring this up. Meta got a nice gap to the upside, hitting this 330 level, but it's coming back down and starting to fill this gap. We have this imbalance down here at like 300. Could we gap up the market and come down? That's a possibility. One thing that's slowing Meta down, it would be the whole market. Also, the dollar is starting to pump a little bit. If you look at the dollar, if the dollar keeps going, that's going to be a bearish signal. So just watch this carefully. That's the last thing I want to say. Anyways, thank you for listening. NIO to the moon, as long term is very bright, alongside for the whole market. And peace out.